What's happening, family? It's your boy Andre Romance, and I'm at this thing again. Now, what's happening, family? What's happening? Now, I have been taking a small break just so I can refill my cup. I have filled my cup up enough to where I feel like I could bring y'all some more content. I was inspired by my father to get back in reading the Bible and learning more about ourselves, you know. And so I started in the book of Genesis, and when I got around to chapter 9, verse 20 through 27, I'm pretty much reading in the story of Noah at this point. So Noah had 3 sons, right? Noah had 3 sons. His youngest son, Ham, was the one that was kind of the oddball, the one that saw him naked, went and told the other 2 brothers, and the other 2 brothers covered the father. Then later stories, I found out that he was also the son that slept with his mother-in-law or his stepmother. So when he saw his father naked, his father became aware of it and cursed him and told him that his children will be servants of servants, right? So with that being said, we fast forward to today's time. So I read a couple articles because I wanted to really find out like how many people were on the ark, and you know, they all had wives and stuff like that. So I wanted to research this and grasp a greater understanding of what servant of servants meant. So I came across this article up here, and this article is talking about how white people in earlier times identified him to be a black person, thus justifying for their ideal desire to have slaves and to go as far as enslaving black people or dark-skinned people as a whole. What they did was they took biblical history and flipped it to be a racist thing. They flipped it so that they could justify for slavery, in which if the stories were borrowed, it doesn't even matter at this point. The fact is that they took biblical scripture and they tried to make it a racist thing. Now, if he had 3 sons and one of them was black, that means that all of them was black. It doesn't justify because one person sins against his father and his father curses him and says, your children shall be servants of servants, that means that all black people are supposed to be slaves now. Now, when we start looking at the scripture that deals with your children shall suffer the consequences of you and your children's children and all that, you start to see how, again, society is manipulating the idea of someone's sins, someone's wrongful doing is becoming a family curse onto children. Now, there are 2 ways that you can look at it. You can look at it in the sense that if I murdered somebody, that means now my children's children are going to suffer the consequences of dealing with murder, or, you know, going through being killed or something like that. And then there's the idea that if I was a talented man that knew how how to run a business, knew how to create a business and own one, and I don't do nothing with it, my children shall suffer the consequence of me not having created that business for them to uphold when they become of age. You know, like, if I don't create riches for my family won't eat. You know, that's the type of consequences I identify with. Like, if I don't step up and become a man, then my children, they won't see a man, and so they won't know what a man looks like. You know, those type of things. Not necessarily my sins, you know, but, you know, that goes into identifying what a sin is, and what you feel is right and wrong. But I encourage y'all to read this article. Tell me what you think. I think it's good to get in the Bible and read about stories, the history of it and what happened, and learn lessons from it. I do not think it's okay to justify your wrongs of, you know, owning slaves, ever having slaves, or servants, whatever you want to call them. Slaves and servants would be the same thing to me. But to justify with a race, because in the biblical days, it doesn't identify with races. It identifies with cultures, but not races. And so for us in later times to take that and flip it, it says a lot about these people. It says a lot about their characters, that they want to justify so badly that they would take out of scripture something and flip it to make it feel right. Okay, so I encourage y'all to, you know, do your research, continue to learn, continue to grow. As I always say, man, if you don't understand something or understand something, you have to do the research until you get it. You have to do the research. You have to go and find these answers, because they've written about it all. I still don't understand why there are no dates as far as the biblical stuff. You know, there's no dates, there are no races. You know, you can't say that this person was this color and this person was that color. You don't know. I mean, it's to the degree that we don't even know how the cultures line up, because the cultures that we identify with today are not the same cultures that they identified with back in the biblical days. And then also, there, like I was saying before, there are writers that wrote that didn't get accepted into the Bible, you know, and they had some truthful things to say. So do the research. All right, don't be discouraged to do that research. I love y'all. Y'all keep me up. I'm gonna keep y'all up, and I'm out of this thing, man.